For the past 10 years, U.S. Congressman Gregg Harper has served the citizens of Mississippi in the 3rd Congressional District with honor and dignity since being elected in November of 2008. But what you may not know is it may have been one of those early jobs that Congressman Harper had that laid the groundwork for him to deliver. You see, while he was in college, he spent a little time working for UPS. Now, it's a long way from Jackson's UPS Center to Capitol Hill, but through the 10 years he was in Washington, Congressman Harper turned out to be the total package. He never forgot who he represented. He delivered for Mississippi's World War II veterans when they visited Washington during a government shutdown. He joined them on the National Mall and removed the barricades to allow those veterans to see the memorial that was there to honor them. He delivered for students with disabilities by funding and founding the first congressional internship program for individuals with intellectual disabilities. He delivered for our youngest citizens by authoring the Gabriel Miller Kids First Research Acts, which ended taxpayer financing for presidential campaigns and conventions, directed that money to pediatric research, and over a 10-year period will put $126 million into that research. And he delivered for his fellow congressmen as chairman of the Committee of House Administration with his quick reactions following a tragic shooting when his peers were practicing for the annual congressional baseball game and helping assure that game went on as planned. You see, the work he does as chair of the House Administration Committee or serving on the influential House Committee on Energy, or where he's chairman of the Oversight Committee or chair of the Joint Legislative Committee on Printing and the Library of Congress, those are all important. But what sets him apart is he's never strayed from his convictions. He's never too busy to talk to constituents, and he never forgets what's important to Mississippi. The congressman and his wife, Sydney, are also committed to continuing to support families with children with special needs. Throughout his time in Congress, he continued to come home, teach Sunday school to youth here in Mississippi. Now, when he retires from Congress, I'm sure he'll be glad not to have to go back to Washington each week. But I guarantee you one thing, he's not going to retire from making Mississippi a better place. Please welcome Congressman Gregg Harper.
Thank you. I know some of you needed to stretch, but I'm going to tell my wife I got a standing ovation. Thank you. We are blessed to have a governor like Governor Phil Bryant, who loves our state and cares so much about it. And Scott, thank you for that introduction. It's always a pleasure to be here. And I've got to just say a few things. Scott, it was a great intro, but my UPS career was actually the summer after my 9th grade year. So I started much younger than just, college on trying to work hard. I want you to know that representing you in Congress and in Mississippi has been the greatest honor of my life. I'll always be an ambassador for the state of Mississippi long after I'm out of public life, because there's no better place to raise a family, no better place to live. The friends, the food, the fellowship, the music is exceptional. And I hope that you will not take that for granted and realize that this is the place that we have chosen. And I want to thank each of you for the hard work you do in your businesses. I look around the room and I see representatives of some of the best industries in the country, whether it's Huntington Ingalls on the coast, whether it's Taylor Machine Works, any of these that have done so much work for us across the state. I just want you to know how proud we are. Scott mentioned one of the things we did. Our life has been maybe a little different on the map in that we have raised a child with special needs. Our son Livingston, who I can't believe is 29 now. If you've seen him, if you go to Primo's on Lakeland Drive Monday through Friday at lunchtime, Livingston's working tables there. And he's been there now for a little more than 4 years. But he showed us during his life not to put limitations on those with special needs. We maybe did it as mom and dad, but he blew those things blew the roof through on some of these things. When he was in high school, he came home from senior day at Pearl High School and he said, "This is where I'm going to college." Shame on us, we had never thought about that for him. We thought high school was it, we'd get a job, that would be all he would do. But what does he do? He's got some stuff from Hines Community College at the Rankin branch. And the older we get, what do we know? We know that God directs our paths, don't we? And he puts people in places and events. And here's what we know about Livingston. Those of you that know him know this is true. When Livingston gets on something, it's not going away. You might as well go ahead and deal with it and take care of that. But as God would direct, I called a lady named Eleanor Long at Hines Community College, who's in charge of the History Political Science Department at the Rankin branch, who had been a student teacher for me when I was in high school at Pearl. She said, "Sure, he can take a class. There's another lady that'll take a class." He did that for a couple of years each semester. Did great. And then I'm proud to tell you, and so thankful, that Mississippi State University started a program called the Access Program for students with intellectual disabilities. And it's now been 4+ years ago. He was one of the first 2 students to graduate from that program. Today, thank you. Today they have 22 students this semester. It's remarkable what it does. So that's been our life. That's what we've taken. And what did I do? I get to Washington, D.C., and there is a regular intern program, and I've seen a couple of my former interns here in the house today. But there was nothing for students with intellectual disabilities. And as God would direct those paths, I wind up from the beginning on the Committee on House Administration, which has control over that. So we started one. We started with 5 House Republican offices, 3 of us that had special needs. It was a little pilot program. It was successful in 2010. And so now for 8.5 years, it's been a permanent program. Over 180 House and Senate offices have participated, to the point we don't have enough students from George Mason University and their Mason Life program to meet the needs and the demand. When I became chairman of that committee in January of 17, I sat down with my staff and I said, "Find me the best recent graduate we've had from Mason Life at George Mason University, and we're going to hire that person to work full-time for us." So in March of 17, we hired a young man, Austin, who has autism, to work full-time starting in March of 17. He's making full-time pay, doing full-time work, doing great work for us. He's no longer on SSI. It's changed his life. Remarkable. So I encourage you, as you look at your businesses, these people can do real work. Yes, they have challenges, but so do the so-called normal people, right? But those with intellectual disabilities can do great work for your company. I encourage you to look at them and do that. We've had some amazing things, and I want to say this. The economy is doing well because we have great leadership from our governor on the state level. But whether you like the tweets or whether you like the politics, there's no doubt the economy has been better these last 2 years under President Trump. You cannot deny the numbers or the figures that are there. You can't. It's there. Lowest unemployment rate that we've had some in forever. You have more people, you have more job openings than people looking for work. So the opportunities are great for us as we go forward. We're more respected across the world, and I will be forever thankful to President Trump for moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That is a special and a significant deal, and he's done what he said he would do, what every president had said they would do, but never did until this time. So I'm thankful for that he's done that. The tax cuts weren't a bad idea either, and I think everybody knows that's getting a paycheck on what that means for the future. Now I can't believe it, the 10 years has gone by like that, guys. But we've had remarkable things we've worked on. He mentioned the Gabriella Miller Kids First Research Act, the ID intern program that we've worked on. Many of these things to build up our military, which has been, it's been a challenge over these last 10 years. But we're on track. We're doing the things we need to do. And here's what we do know. Under this administration, we have been more respected around the world And I'm okay if we're feared and not loved. But we built up the military. The president, I think, has stood up for Taiwan, who is being bullied by communist China. And these are things that are going on the international stage that we're pushing back. We're not just rolling over and say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. And I think that's good for our country in the long run. Now let's talk politics for just a minute. You know, don't we have an election next week, I think? Yeah? I'll go ahead and give my prediction. I think we'll be +3 in the Senate, and I think we'll lose about 15 seats in the House, but we'll keep the majority with a narrow margin. Let's see what happens next Tuesday night, and you'll find out if I'm a good or bad prognosticator in the days ahead. And I'm looking forward to Michael Guest taking my seat. A great friend. He'll do a great job for our district and our state and represent us well. And I want to thank publicly Governor Phil Bryant for appointing Cindy Hyde-Smith as our United States Senator. You couldn't ask for anybody to do a better job. And for some to get out there and say, oh, you can't vote for her because she's a Democrat. What's that about? All I know is when I was trying to get people who were elected officials down in Lincoln County to switch parties over the years, she was in the middle of that trying to get them to switch parties. And if you're building a party, what do? You want to be able to attract other people. And if you don't welcome them with open arms, how do you ever grow the party? And if somebody says, well, she's a Democrat, well, you say, well, she was a Republican on the ballot for Commissioner of Ag in 2011. Did you vote for her as a Republican then? Did you vote for her in 2015 when she ran as a Republican? There's not a good answer either way for that person, right? Because if they say no, that means they voted for a Democrat. If they say yes, then why are they complaining now? She's a solid person that you should be proud of, not because she's a woman, which is significant for our state, but because she's the best qualified to be our United States Senator. God bless you. Thank you for letting me represent you these 10 years. Thank you.
Congressman Harper, I've asked the governor to join us. We have a special recognition of not only today's events, but the work you've done in Congress over the last 10 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. One more.
Oh, there we go.
I'm fortunate to be here today because we haven't had any real catastrophic storms on the Gulf Coast. We had some storms last night, little damage, 17,000 people without power, but thanks to the good work that we have from the EPAs and from all the groups, power was restored. But of course, that didn't happen in Florida. You had Hurricane Michael that hit Florida, and I want to tell you that those people in my thoughts and prayers, if you have been down there or if you've flown over, I've looked at television or some of the media on what happened in Florida, keep them in your thoughts and prayers. Those people really suffered from where that hurricane hit. It's a blessing that storms have not hit the state of Mississippi. We've been pretty lucky. It kind of reminds me of a story about my youngest granddaughter. Mary and I had them out to eat with the family. We were at a Mexican restaurant, and she said, "Papi," we'd eaten. She said, "I need some money." And I said, "What for, Lil?" And she said, I need some money. And all I had was a $5 bill, and I gave it to her, and I said, "Where are you going?" She said, "To buy a gumball." And I said, "Mason," her older brother, go with her. They hadn't come back in several minutes. Had changed the $5 in a quarter, and so I went to check on them, and Libba was standing at the gumball machine putting quarters in, and a brother saw me, and he said, "Libba, can I get a gumball?" She said, "No, I'm winning." You need to think about that. You see, it's not really luck that allows Mississippians to keep winning. It's the thoughtful preparation and learning on what happens with storms. It's being prepared for a storm, and that's why we have building codes on the Gulf Coast. It's why we try to have them throughout the state of Mississippi. People like the Mississippi Home Builders Association, the Mississippi Concrete Association, the Economic Council, and all of those folks are for building codes. It's like stronger building codes keep our coast solid. And I want to say this real succinctly. It means more economic development on the Gulf Coast and throughout the state of Mississippi. it's like the progress that we get from the new jobs that were created at Ingalls Shipyard. It's simply because we have those things in place that allow us to move forward economically. Andy, this is not in my speech, but I just want to say it. Poultry is the #1 agriculture product in the state of Mississippi, right? You can't build a poultry house or get it financed if you can't insure it. Think about what I said. You can't sell a chicken to India if it doesn't have insurance. You've got to have insurance if you have economic development. You know, we may be low on the totem pole on your radar unless you have a claim and your roof is leaking because a tree fell on it. Insurance is important to the economic development of this state. At last check on the Gulf Coast, we had less than 23,000 people in our state wind pool, which is the insurer of last resort. You will see that this trend is likely to continue simply because we've been able to recruit more companies to write on the Gulf Coast. When I took office right after Katrina, we had 6 companies that were writing on the Gulf Coast. Today we have over 30. Actually, we have 36. I think I signed 2 more letters day before yesterday, well, Monday before I went back to the Gulf Coast. It's things like this that make Mississippi move forward economically. The wind pool has to be changed in a lot of aspects. Some of the things that we need to do is to be careful about if we do have a catastrophic event that we do not assess policyholders. That means everybody in this room would be assessed if we had a catastrophic event and we fell short on the monies that we have. That needs to be changed. The companies need to be the ones that need to be assessed. We passed a Clarity Act in 2015, and it's helping us to collect the data that we have to show that the coast rates for insurance, homeowners insurance, are not any higher than the rest of the state in comparison. The coast is not subsidized in North Mississippi, and North Mississippi is not subsidized in South Mississippi. They're all standing on their own equal feet, and rates are fair in the state. Let me say something real quickly. I keep watching this clock about health care. The department monitors health care changes directed by those in Washington, D.C. We have very little regulatory authority over health care in this state. But we're in the health care business whether we like it or not. I'm an insurance regulator, but I get into the health care business simply because of the job and the nature of the job with health insurance. They routinely have something called balance billing sometime when you have an air ambulance. Now, air ambulances go out and they'll pick you up, take you to the hospital and send you a $45,000 or $50,000 bill, and your insurance company won't pay for it because they're not in a network, one, or the insurance company has a cap on what they can pay actuarially. The helicopter people say, well, that's real easy. You don't regulate us, Commissioner. We're regulated by the FAA in Washington. And I say, that's not true. That's not true. If you've got somebody on that helicopter that's performing a medical service, we think you're a health care provider and we regulate you, and we have something called balance billing in the state of Mississippi. If you assign your health benefits or you take the dollars from the health care company, you cannot balance bill that client or that patient for more money. So we've been pretty dead-gum successful, and I just won't tell you how successful, but CNN has actually called us about some of the ways that we've handled these issues, and we've been able to keep consumers from being overbilled when they call us. We don't go out looking for them. That's an issue in the healthcare business that we've got to address. The other issue is that in 2010, we had 5 hospitals closed, and they haven't reopened. And today, I spoke in Natchez yesterday on the Gulf Coast, Tuesday on a healthcare group of providers, and I told them this: you've had 4 rural hospitals in the state of Mississippi that have filed bankruptcy within the last month. The elephant in the room, folks, is health care. If you don't have health care in this state, you will not have economic development. People in Mississippi live and work here simply because they love this state, but they're not going to stay if we do not have health care in the state of Mississippi. It's important that we have decent health care, and to do that, we've all got to work together. You can't have one group saying it's your fault and the other group saying no, it's yours. You've got to work together. My part of that little vineyard to manage, and I see a lot of you shaking your head, is to make certain that health insurance is viable and available in the state of Mississippi. We have about 62,000 people on the FFM, that's a federal market exchange, and this is something you probably need to know. If they pull out and the hospitals close, you will not have any health insurance that will be taken by a hospital group in the Delta. Think about what I've just said. Right now we cover 82 counties. What would you do if you had 50 counties with no insurance available when you went to the hospital or to a clinic? Somebody needs to be addressing, and we're trying to address our part of what's happening in the healthcare industry in this state. Just like my granddaughter said, feeding coins into the the gumball machine, she felt lucky. You've got to put something in before you get something out. And we've got to put something in the health care if we're going to have decent health care in the state of Mississippi. Thank you for letting me be here and speak today. God bless you. God bless the great state of Mississippi and these United States of America.
Good morning. How are you all doing? This is my first time speaking at Hobnob, but I'm looking around the room and I see all the same faces I saw at Neshoba County Fair, except you're clean. That's the only difference. Even Scott is clean. I'm just over 100 days into office as your 42nd state auditor, so what I thought I would do is give you a 100-day report card to talk about some of the things that I hoped that we would be able to get done in the first few months when I was in office, and then where we are on those projects and where we're going from here. So first thing that I wanted to do when I came into office was to take a hard look at our budget and try to figure out if there are ways to save money. And we're doing that right now. So we have taken a look at our travel costs and our commodities costs. Commodities are just the physical things that we buy in the office, and we're trying to cut down on those costs. We have an office in North Mississippi. We're going to let the lease expire on that in December, and we're going to try to find a smaller office space that'll save a little bit of money there. We've got salaries that we have cut back on, so people just inevitably kind of leave the state auditor's office. Folks go and folks come, and so we're trying to save money on new folks when they come in the door. So we're working hard to make sure that we maximize every penny that we have of your money that we're having to spend. Thing number two that I wanted to work on was I wanted to try to make sure that our office was the most transparent state agency in state government. So the way we wanted to start to do that was to build a new section of our website. And you can go to it right now. We've accomplished this goal, so you can check that one off your list. You can go to osa.ms.gov/transparency, and you can see all of our active contracts. You can see all of our RFPs so that you know how we're spending your money. That's important because it's not my money and it's not the state auditor's office money. It's your money, and we want you to know how we're spending it. Thing number three that we have been working on is halfway done right now, so you can put half a check mark. We wanted to audit ourselves as soon as I came into office. So we hold all the state agencies to a standard that's about here. We asked them to meet all the legal requirements for spending money, and we thought it's only fair that we also hold ourselves to that same standard. We meet that same mark. So what we've done is we've gone in to make sure that we're doing things the right way. I've seen a draft of that report. It's got some things that we can do better in it, and we're going to fix those things. What we're going to do is finish up that report, that audit of ourselves, and then we're going to map out a report that will also show how we're going to fix all those things. We're going to staple them together, and then we're going to make that public so everybody can see it. Everybody can see what we're doing to improve the function of our office. Fourth thing that I wanted to work on was cybersecurity. So I told people around the state, I've told you at Neshoba County Fair, that I asked folks in our office, coders and software experts in our office, to try to hack us to see if they could break into our system and find vulnerabilities in our cyber system. They asked me when I first told them that, do you want to try to be hacked too? And I said, yes, of course, I'm no exception. Hack me as well. That was probably a huge mistake I'm realizing now, because every few days they try to get into my system. So I have to be aware of what they're trying to do, and they hadn't tricked me yet, but they keep trying. Unfortunately, they have tricked some people in our office. So now everybody in our office, including me, is going through cybersecurity training to try to identify ways that hackers try to get into our system. And what we're going to do at the end of that time is we're going to look back and we're going to see the vulnerabilities in our system. We're going to fix them. And then we're going to take those things that we have learned and we're going to take them to other state agencies. We've already decided to partner with 2 or 3 other smaller state agencies. And we're going to take our information to them and help them figure out how to make their data safer as well. And hopefully by the middle of next year, we'll be working with all our state agencies to make sure that data across state government is a little bit safer. One thing I did not talk a lot about right when I came into office, but it's something that I'm proud of and we have worked hard on, is we have tried to revamp and re-energize our investigations division. If you have not opened up a newspaper in the last 3 or 4 months, you may not know that these folks are doing incredible work right now. And one of the reasons they're able to do incredible work is that I brought in a new director of investigations named Richie McCluskey. Richie is a brilliant, energetic guy. He's got decades of investigations experience in public integrity. He's done mortgage fraud cases. He did financial crimes cases. He's run an investigations division in the AG's office. He most recently was chief of police in Flowood, so he knows what it's like to run a big law enforcement entity. Our folks know that he demands results and I demand results, and they have responded incredibly well to that. You may have heard that our folks, our investigators, announced the largest individual embezzlement demand in the last 5 years, the third largest in the last 20 years in Coahoma County. And I'll tell you, it frustrates me to think about that case sometimes, but the case involved two women who decided to steal nearly $1 million from Coahoma Community College. They did so by taking these government procurement cards and going and spending money at Walmart and spending money at Kroger and spending money at Amazon. And they racked up a bill of nearly $1 million. And that's $1 million that community college and those students cannot afford to do without. I've had some folks who ask me, why do you go out and talk about all these cases when you finish them? Why is it important for you to discuss what happened in some of these instances? And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. I want people to know that it's not okay to steal money in Mississippi. And if you do, we're going to be out there watching. And ideally, if we keep talking about it, and I keep talking about it, then it prevents somebody from stealing money in the first place. That's the end goal, is to stop this from happening in the first place so that we never get there. We found innovative ways to partner with some other folks. So I partnered with my friend Drew Snyder at Medicaid, who worked with us, and we found $600,000, over $600,000 of Medicaid money that had gone to pay for the health care of dead folks and folks that shouldn't have otherwise received those payments, and we're working with them to get that money back right now. So those are some of the things that we're doing, working across state government and re-energizing our investigations division to try to get money back for you. I'll tell you this in closing. A year from now, I'm going to stand back in front of you at the same podium, and I'm going to be in the middle of a job interview. And it's going to be a job interview with you. And you're going to have my resume on your desk. And that resume is going to be everything that I've done and our office has done over the last year and a half. And if you like what you've seen and you like the direction of the office, I'll ask you to vote for me for 4 more years in this job. If you don't like it, you can vote for somebody else. But either way, it's going to be pretty crystal clear what my intentions are in this job and where I want to take it. And I'll tell you, if you hadn't figured it out by now, my intention is to be tough. My intention is to be fair. And my intention is to bring every ounce of energy that I possibly can to this job. And doing that, I think we're going to maximize our opportunity to get money back for the taxpayers, to get your money back and put it where it belongs. Thank you so much. It's good to see you. God bless you.